What is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Now, you guys know every Monday we like to go over the fun flows, just kind of getting an idea of what the lizard people are doing, where they're moving their money, and much more. Obviously, last week was a interesting week to say the least. Obviously, everything going on with Ethereum, the Ethereum ETF approvals. Last week, obviously, we saw Bitcoin Nashville as well. So definitely some interesting movements, some that we should at least be keeping an eye on because you all know, realistically, a lot of these markets are manipulated by these very people, at least in my opinion. Now, looking at this thing, what we can see here is that last week was actually a pretty rough week in comparison to what we have been seeing. You know, we obviously saw 400 million 4 weeks ago, 1.4 billion 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, pushing all the way up to $2.5 billion worth of inflows from the whales. And then I obviously just fell off a cliff last week. Kind of breaking this down a little bit deeper into how this went. Most of that selling pressure came from Grayscale, which is no surprise, of course, because of everything happening with the Ethereum ETF. Now, you know, realistically, Grayscale's ETFs suck. When there are better options in the market, everyone goes to those better options. And the moment that we saw the Ethereum approval happen, everyone basically just started getting out of their Grayscale Ethereum trust. And now, of course, because of that, the outflows can really start to pick up steam. Although generally it is kind of counterbalanced a little bit to some degree, it definitely seems as if there were just more outflows in general, maybe as if some of those clients have just not been picking up the Ethereum and the ETFs from other institutions and stuff. So looking at it, obviously, we can see Grayscale coming in with a $1.4 billion outflow in comparison to iShares picking up $1.2 billion. So definitely a bit of a negative week there, but it's okay because in general, we were still up and there was positive sentiment as the other column here comes in with $577 million worth of inflows. Now, the vast majority of a lot of this volume actually did shift over to Ethereum this week, but we did see some Bitcoin getting picked up. $519 million of these inflows did come in at Bitcoin. And whenever you look at the grand total here of $245 million of net inflows, it's actually not too bad, right? It just goes to show that although Ethereum is causing some volatility, which is not surprising, we are still seeing the whales sticking to the game plan. They are still picking up an overall net positively accumulating Bitcoin. So it just goes to show that the focus is still there, although we are seeing, again, Ethereum start to cause some ripples with a negative $284 million week. Now, $284 million worth of outflows is interesting. I personally thought we might see a net positive week. But if you do think back to whenever the Bitcoin Ethereum or Bitcoin ETF approval did happen, we did see a lot of negative weeks. It was not as exciting or crazy as people thought it was going to be just because of the volatility. And you see those buy the rumor, sell the news events types happening all the time. And so this isn't particularly shocking, but it definitely does open my eyes a bit to the approach in which we're having, in the sense that we were right? I told you all, look, I'm not doing a lot of trading on Ethereum. I'm not doing a lot of buying, selling, or shorting right now. I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens because there is going to be a ton of volatility. Volatility creates structure. Structure gives us opportunity. And so we're still kind of in that phase, but obviously I'll show you guys some of the more charts and stuff in future videos, just focusing this more now on what's happening with the whales and kind of how they're moving around. Now, nothing too interesting just in terms of the rest of the alts, right? You look at multi-asset coming in with an $8.7 million inflow. That's decent. Solana picking up a negative week on negative $2.7 million. The first negative week for Solana in about 7 weeks now. Litecoin, XRP, and short Bitcoin all picking up some steam. Cardano coming in at a 1.2 million inflow, which is the highest for an altcoin last week, which is funny. I don't quite know who's accumulating on there. And obviously Chainlink 0.4 and other at 2.5. So a rather boring week across the majority of our alts. And that is most likely because the attention has been shifted over towards Ethereum, as we have now seen the Ethereum ETF approval. Now, overall, what does this mean for me? It just means that we are still in a market in which Bitcoin is predominantly leading the charge, right? It's giving us a lot of the clues and the foundation as to where this market is going. And I do think as long as we are seeing the whales focused on Bitcoin, as long as general retail, as long as volume in general in comparison and a ratio to the rest of your altcoins is in favor of Bitcoin and dominance is slowly growing, it still just that tells us that this is what we need to be focused on, right? And that is likely going to be the driving force of the market, and which is why we pay attention to it. We go over its Bitcoin charts and stuff like that on a consistent basis, on a daily basis. And so because of that, overall, nothing really too exciting here from the whales. The lizard people weren't, they were making a lot of moves, but nothing too substantial that really changes any of our thesis or anything like that. So not too much going on here, but a rather interesting week to say the least. So we'll continue to check in every week just to get an idea, just to get a feel of what they're doing. I've pretty consistently said that although I do think that the market is faced with a lot of manipulation, I think given the ability to be able to see what the whales are doing and be able to watch how they're making moves is very important. And it's something we should pay attention to because of that manipulation. It kind of gives us a bit of an edge. And so that's about it. Not too much. We're out here in Puerto Rico for the next 4 or 5 days. So a lot of my videos won't be obviously with the big old background and all that stuff, but I hope you guys still do enjoy the content. I have a bunch of things that are going to be coming out this week, a couple things for you to check out. So make sure that you do stay tuned for that. I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.